Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Wow, what an incredible morning. I was trying to think about how to summarize it, and I'm not really sure I can, but I guess my takeaways is that all of these incredible panelists that we've heard are diplomats, whether they really meant to or not. And they're, of course, at the height and pinnacle of their careers and crafts. And they're also putting all the geopolitics aside. What I love is just how optimistic they are. And there's always a door open and always looking to the future and the power of what we can do. And to me, that is why I'm involved with Meridian and why I think cultural diplomacy is so critical to the future, because it's relatable, it connects people across nations and boundaries, and that's what I'm going to say about all that, but it's just so important. I do want to begin by thanking my co-chair, Manisha Kabani. It's just such a privilege and honor to work with you, and a newfound friend, and I'm really excited of what we've accomplished today. I also want to thank our incredibly generous host committee, along with Deborah Lair, our new leader, David, Natalie Jones, TK Harvey, Sylvie Stainton, Danielle Nujar, and the entire Meridian team. Honestly, without all of you, today would not be possible, and you brought this stellar program to life. Thank you, and I'm going to give them a little clap. So, without further ado, I'd like to bring us on to our next conversation, which is called The Creative Vanguard and the Extraordinary Power of Presence, which explores what happens when art captures the public imagination and transcends national boundaries. Guiding the discussion is Melissa Chu, director of the Smithsonian's Hirshhorn Museum and Sculpture Garden, and the soon-to-be director of the Guggenheim Museum in New York. Melissa is a former colleague and friend, and she has been a very influential voice in contemporary art, and particularly championing artists and ideas that foster global dialogue and exchange. She is joined by one of the world's most celebrated contemporary artists and one of this year's Meridian Cultural Diplomacy honorees, Jeff Koons. Jeff's work has captivated audiences around the globe and creating moments of wonder that transcend language and geography. His contributions to international cultural exchange have been recognized by the U.S. State Department's Medal of Arts and by France's Legion of Honor, among many other distinctions. Please welcome them both.
So I think that there are few artists today who have had such a storied art life. You were very much a participant and in some ways came to really gain a lot of recognition in the 1980s in the kind of art market boom, and witnessed the 1990s of a kind of recalibration and identity politics. And even through the 2000s, when we saw a much greater interest in globalization. So the art world has, in some ways, gone through these revolutions. And one of the first things that kind of occurred to me to ask for this audience was, you know, what do you think, or how do you think an artist's role within society might have changed from when you first kind of burst onto the scene in New York? Or how do you think the expectations of being an artist in the world might have evolved?
That's a big question, right?
I know, I thought I'd start broad.
Yeah. You know, I have to say, I feel so fortunate, as a person, to be involved in the arts. And, I'm from Pennsylvania originally. And I, went to public school, and I had an art teacher. My first art teacher, actually, Mrs. Miller, had one hand that was deformed. And she had only little nubs for fingers. And she was my art teacher throughout elementary school. And I think that I learned that the arts, you could overcome anything. I mean, she would be, handling materials and moving things and be able to paint and do these different activities. And so I think that I carried that kind of seed with me, that you can overcome anything through the arts. I took art lessons when I was younger. I'm just giving you an idea of my journey here to even have an understanding of art and having kind of a role in it. But I took art lessons. I ended up always in art class in high school. And I really wasn't prepared. I wanted to go to a liberal arts college, but I was really only prepared to go to an art school. And I went to art school, and in art school, I learned that art so effortlessly connects you to all the human disciplines. And I learned that it really wasn't, it can be many things, of course, but it wasn't that it's just an activity that you make something and that it's entirely a personal activity about the self, subjective. I actually learned the opposite, that you can develop personal iconography, you can develop the tools of being able to control your own feelings, emotions, of embedding information into work, but that I learned that it connects you to everything. And when I realized that, I was having an art history lesson, but I felt so transformative. And to this moment, there's not a day, Melissa, that I don't wake up really engaged and excited about my own personal potential as a human being.
So when did that epiphany happen for you? When did you realize that art was going to be your life?
Well, it was my first art history class. And that I had a teacher, Bo Davis, and he was showing a slide. It was a Manet painting. So my appreciation for France really started here. I mean, I already enjoyed aspects of French culture. I was never in France, but, understanding the ideas, the development of ideas in Europe, the Enlightenment, and all these things. But looking at the painting, he would speak about different symbolisms taking place. And I realized that I could be involved in philosophy, psychology, physics, theology, all the human disciplines. Everything is there for discussion. So I felt like I could be a dilettante. And to that moment, whenever I
Everyone's
heard that,
laughing at the idea of you as a dilettante, Jeff.
but usually I would always think of the dilettante in a negative form. But all of a sudden, I saw it in a positive form, that I could spread myself thin. I could become vaster. I could be involved in these dialogues. So I developed a sense of personal iconography. I learned how I could make myself have different feelings and emotions. And I started to understand that I could actually share that with others, that I could affect the way other people would feel. When they would look at my work, they would feel maybe a sense of excitement, or they would respond to something. And that's when, I started to want to be, really more engaged. And for me, being an artist was something that it was about being part of my own generation, to be able to meet with friends, discuss ideas of what was kind of relevant to us at that time. Like, how could we participate? What could we bring to the table? And so I do not think that I'm very special. I know that I'm not. I'm a person that I try to work with the means that I have. I try to increase my parameters, and I want to become vaster every day. But I've always been all in. So, when I would be presented with opportunity to show in a group show with friends or something, I would be sure. And I would always give it 110%. And I think it's so interesting. All the sessions this morning were beautiful. And I think underneath everything is generosity. And what the arts give, what the sports give, diploma, all of these areas, it's about being generous as a human being, being generous to yourself. But then, you want to share that with others. And so the idea of the isolated artist that, they only do it for themselves. There's a higher calling. And that higher calling is the joy, the absolute joy to share, to be able to be generous, to not only pull yourself along to make yourself faster, but to try to bring your whole community with you. And yes, it goes from maybe your local kind of group of avant-garde artists in New York City to really the pleasure, I can go to Germany and I can meet the artists in Cologne and be able to be in dialogue with them. And I can go to Spain, I can go to Paris. And so it's fantastic because it's really about trying to find ways that you can continue to develop your own ideals and your own philosophies, but to be able to pick up, to learn, to constantly be able to become a different human being through culture. And I'm sorry, I'm just going on.
No. We came here to hear you.
No. But
I am struck by your thoughts on making art as an act of generosity. And I think all too often when we think of the creative act, it's a very, very solitary thing. It's an artist in a studio thinking and creating, not necessarily with the idea of an audience in mind. So I wonder about the scale of your sculptures, the fact that they're often in the public sphere. Is that a part of your thinking, that when you're creating something of that scale and for an interaction with the public rather than in a gallery space?
That creative moment, I was at a conference and Lionel Richie was speaking about his creative process of just being in a completely silent room, like dark, silent, and that's what he needs. I'm always thinking about my interests. And so they're always just kind of percolating, and this will go on for years. Pardon me. And then finally I'll realize, I've been following this and thinking about this area, and it excites me. I have a lot of curiosity there. I'm going to commit to do something there. But if I think back from that moment of commitment where I'm going to do something to how long I've been thinking about it, it's a minimum of 2 years. I mean, generally even longer. So it's not that I'm trying to become vaster, okay? I want to be vaster. I'm not trying to be loved. I want to serve. I would like to serve. I believe in serving. I believe in, I believe in people. I believe in a community. And I believe that, it's wonderful to be able to take care of yourself, and then once you're able to serve others.
So you spoke before about the importance of building your personal iconography. Can you describe that for us?
Well, I always loved Dada and surrealism. And so I was very fortunate. I met Dali when I was very young, and he was very generous. To meet, I was 19, and he told me to come to New York, and he met me. I mean, that takes a lot of generosity to do that. But I felt that Dada and surrealism, helped me learn how to go inward and to kind of accept myself. All the vulnerabilities, all of the, not understanding culture. We're here speaking about culture. And I always saw, as a person growing up, as culture as a hierarchy, that culture was about refinement. Culture was about, these things that you have to know something about before you can participate in it. But eventually, I've learned that it's absolutely the opposite. You never have to bring anything to interacting with anything in the world, any interaction with anything other than where you are at that moment. It's always about that moment forward. And culture is just everything in the external world. That's culture. And it's our interaction, our biological interaction with the external world. It's this back and forth. And we continue to always change through that interaction, just like any organism does. Many times I bring up John Dewey's name because, I love Dewey, the way he speaks about this. But this is culture. Any type of object we're in, this is culture, okay? I've worked with my art. If you think about some of my works, maybe a balloon dog, it's a frivolous thing. You may think something from a birthday party. But for me, it's something that deals with inside, outside. I think of the membrane of the balloon as our membrane. Like we all have this skin, the largest organ, and we're breathing, we're inhaling, we're exhaling. So we're very similar. And this is culture. I mean, we're interacting with culture. I mean, whether it's bringing in oxygen and exhaling CO2, this is culture. That's the interaction. So I'm trying to always be involved with an openness to everything. And so I was mentioning the balloon dog and kind of the embedding of information. For me, the balloon dog, I think of it as something that has a profoundness to it. Because I'll think back in the past. I like history because I like how it connects us with biological memory, our forebears, with life itself, and our culture, history, just history of humankind. But I always think of maybe somebody in Paleolithic time would have looked at their kill, and they would have noticed that the gases are rising in the intestines, or the lungs are inflating. And they could think, I can do something with this. And they pick it up, they start forming something, and here they have this kind of balloon dog animal. And they were able to embed enough meaning that I think of the piece as something that a whole community would rally around. There would be some type of ritual, a unifying ritual. And it's also that hunter, if we think back, he was able to take care of himself. He had a kill right there. But it's something about also being able to take care of the community, to share that. And that's what I love about art. I love my relationship with it. I try to be the best artist I can be. Hopefully that other artists, other people interested in the arts or other disciplines can also strive and understand that that if they give everything to something, they can be as vast as they can possibly be.
Well, I'm glad you raised Balloon Dog, because that's an artwork that has been appropriated, copied. We see balloon dogs everywhere, essentially copies of your work. How do you feel about that?
I mean, they're not necessarily to the form that I would have made myself, but I like that they are there. And because it's about communication, it's the arts are about being able to communicate. It's using a visual language, or if you're in music, musical language, or fashion, textures and colors and freshness of design. But it's about communication. And so if somebody can look at that and in some way think abstractly, in any way, whatever that may be, I think it's wonderful.
So you talked about the desire to go faster. So I have to ask you about AI and whether you think it's a useful tool for your practice and whether you use it at all in the studio right now.
I do use AI. I do not use it in a manner where working with it, I'll prompt it to say, I want to make the most exciting, most contemporary art possible today. Give that to me.
Yeah, that's not going to be good.
Yeah. But I do use it, as a tool, and it is just absolutely incredible for being able to work with, material sciences, to be able to find materials and learn the strengths, and for engineering, all of these different areas. It's absolutely wonderful. And to begin, if I'm curious about, I'd like to make something in wood. Say I'd like to make this glass out of wood. And to be able to visualize it just quickly, take a photo, what would this look like in wood? But there are a lot of concerns, about AI, and I can understand why there would be concerns. But it's an amazing time that we live. How we have all the human information almost. We have all the best libraries in the world, all of this information at our fingertips. And so, I believe in taking advantage of it. As far as the creative process, AI, even though they'll speak about AI, neural systems, they're only using words that mimic kind of our biology. But it can't feel joy. It has no feelings. It can't fear death. It doesn't know those fears. And there are two parameters. They're the parameters of our life, the feelings of joy and of death. You asked me earlier, and I remember making a work in 1978. It was an inflatable rabbit, a pink rabbit, inflatable, and an inflatable flower. And I sat these two inflatables on 4 mirrors. 2 mirrors were the type you'd buy at a hardware store, just 12 inches square. 2 were propped against the wall in the back, and 2 were on an angle, mild angle, about 60 degrees, and 2 on the floor. And I just sat the inflatables on top of them. And oh my gosh, I felt like, whoa. Because, the time was different. The time in the reflection was different than interacting with the inflatable object itself. And when you would move around, when I would go this way or that way, or any viewer, you would realize everything was dependent on you, that the abstraction would change. I mean, it was so intense, I had to go have a beer. I mean, no, it was very intense. And this is what AI can't experience. It can be prompted, it can kind of throw these things out. The creative process, for me, comes from really focusing on things. And I think all of us here would agree that it comes really focusing on things. I think you have to learn how to accept yourself as a human being, to be open to the world, to open yourself up to the world. Otherwise, we're closed clams. We live our life as a closed clam. Instead, if we accept ourselves, the last place you want to be is just deeply in here. You want to eat just open up and you just can bring everything in. And so, and then focusing on these interests, the things that excite you by focusing on them and intensely focusing on them. And then you realize, of course, and we've all experienced this when we focused on our interests, the abundance of that information. And if we continue just to focus on that, it takes us to a very metaphysical place. And metaphysics do exist, time and space bend, and I experience it. I look at works of art and I get profoundly involved with it, and I can be in dialogue with the artist. And it just comes from focus.
Thanks, Jeff. I think that's a great place for us to pause. Because the idea of focus and focus on interests is something I think that our audience members are here to hear from you as well. I think we have a time for a few questions. So I think the first one is here and second one there.
Inspirational you are, and you have a lovely speaking voice. I'm curious if you've been inspired by the 250th anniversary and if you're been, thinking of something to create.
I'm excited, of course, by the anniversary. I'm very proud to be an American, and I'm very proud that America has always represented ideals that are inclusive and that are about unifying and to be a positive force for humankind. This is the America that I love. I grew up in York, Pennsylvania. This is where the Continental Congress met for the first time and started writing the Articles of Confederation. So I feel very close to, actually, when we were talking about history even earlier, it comes from growing up in York and appreciating history, appreciating the sense of the community. I'm very tied to that. I have created a Liberty Bell in the past. I made a Liberty Bell maybe about a decade ago, which I worked with the Parks and Services, commission, and was able to make an exact replica of the Liberty Bell. I've also created an exact replica of the Dictator cannon that was used during the Civil War. These are iconic pieces within American history. But there's no work in particular other than to continue to try to embrace the ideals that America has always meant for me. I'm very honored that I was able to have a sculpture representing a gift from the people of America to the French people. It wasn't government to government, but it was people to people after the terrorist attacks of 2015, 2016. That was very meaningful to me.
Thanks. I think we had another question here.
Thanks so much for being here. I'd like to ask a little bit more about this impulse for being faster, speed, because there's a kind of paradox with art that much of what is attractive to an audience about it is slowing us down. You just described so beautifully about, with the balloon dog, you can think about your own birthday parties. It can bring memories of your own dogs from the past. It can conjure, as you said, what was that first experience of the gases in a killed body and what that shape could be. And there are things like just at Glenstone, near here, the giant flower dog. And what's so fascinating about going to see that is how it changes. There's decay, there are times when there are brown spots, and then there are flowers. But that's about being able to slow down and see things and contemplate them and bring them together. But you've mentioned many times about you want to be faster, and I'm curious about how those two things work together.
I'm sorry, I don't know if I understand the faster completely. You're saying faster, correct?
I thought that was something you wanted to say.
You're saying, I was saying faster, correct? I was saying vaster, but I'll go with the faster. Life cycle is so important. I mean, there's not a day in some manner that I don't believe that I think about it in some form. My sculptures, the piece like a puppy, the floral sculpture, or split rock, or these large, or some of my artworks that I put plants into, they reference the life cycle. Everything's fragile. Even the appreciation of history. I mean, it's already, it's gone. I mean, that past is gone. We may, within quantum, have multi-universes, but it's kind of gone. Things are always in the process of decaying. And we are here in this moment. And because we're here, it just seems to me like it's a wonderful opportunity to take advantage of this moment, to participate and to be involved and to remove our fears, whatever way we can. I just want to state, I was with some graduate students about 3 weeks ago in New York, and I was invited to come and speak with them. And I came and I talked to them for an hour, and I really wanted to try to rock their world. I had artists come and visit when I was in school, and they had a big impact. So I really wanted to give them everything I could. And I spoke to them for an hour and touched on many of the things that I spoke about here in different ways. And at the end, there was kind of Q&A, and one person raised their hand. They said, "Look, we don't want the self-help. Just tell us how we can make it."
Brutal, brutal.
But what I just told them was how they could make it. That's what I tried to do. I tried to tell them how they could have a relationship with themselves, that they would have the confidence to live with as little fear as possible, to be as courageous as possible, to feel a sense of how they could do it. My experience of following your interests and focusing on them, it's like starting up a car. When I was younger and I would leave college for 3 months and have to work and do all these things to make money, go back to school, I'd get back to school and I'd feel, well, it doesn't feel right. I'm not feeling the same things. I don't like this painting I just made. But the more you do it, okay, the better it feels. It's just like starting up that old car, you have to crank up. That's the focus. And before you know it, it's right there. It's just going. And
I think we have time for one last question up the back there.
Thank you. Your art has taken you around the world as a cultural ambassador to the United States. Can you recall a story where you saw the power of impact of your initiatives or projects abroad? Thank you.
I would have to say that I first experienced it on the receiving end, of being able to pick up on different aspects of culture of other countries, of being able, again, that time of the Manet painting, and being able, Dali, a kind of Spanish artist, or just through different aspects of the art, enjoying different cultures, and then in return, enjoying this idea of participating. And I've enjoyed the dialogue, the back and forth. And it's always felt to me like an honor. I just wanted to participate. When I was younger, and all of a sudden I realized that I had interests that were a little different than some of my friends growing up, that I was more interested in philosophy and things, that I found a group of other people that enjoyed speaking about these other dialogues, and just to participate, to try to, to give that community, that group, everything you could, that you could continue to change and transcend, because the interaction is always happening. We're always changing. Because of culture, it's inevitable. Marcel Duchamp said that he was like a breather. I mean, that's right there. I mentioned before about this breathing. Culture is taking place. So I would have to say that external cultures affected me, the appreciation of those cultures, and then in return, I enjoyed the interaction. I enjoyed going to Germany, being with the young artists like Martin Kippenberger, Albert Oldin, Günter Fork, all these different artists, and then having this kind of international exchange, showing in museums in Europe, being in group shows here in the States and different places. It's something I've never taken lightly. I feel honored because I believe in our country. I believe in the life that I've lived in this country.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you to all of you. And if you'd like to see Jeff's work at the brand new, newly revitalized and designed Hirshhorn Sculpture Garden, we're excited to present that in the fall. So watch this space. Thank you.
Melissa, thank you.